Alright, what's up guys? In this video, I'm going to pick up with some calculus here. It's going to be another integration practice video. It's going to be example number 21 of the integration practice series. So let's go ahead and start that. Alright, so we got another definite integral here. So we're asked to evaluate the integral from 1 to 4. We got 1 over the square root of x multiplied by 1 plus the square root of x cubed, integrated respect to x. Okay, so a good start would just be to do a u substitution, and the best selection for u here is pretty obvious, which is just going to be 1 plus the square root of x. We found the derivative of that. Well, that's just going to be 1 over 2 multiplied by the square root of x dx, because derivative of 1's a constant, that's 0, and the derivative with respect to x for the square root of x, if you use the chain rule, it's just 1 over 2 multiplied by the square root of x and then multiplied by dx. And then if we solve for the dx part, we'll get 2 times the square root of x du is equal to dx. So what ends up happening is the square root of x ends up canceling out. I can pull out a 2, that's a constant. And I'm going to leave the bounds blank because since we're doing a u substitution for a definite integral, I got to change the limits. So we'll do that in a minute. And since the square root of x's ended up canceling out, that just leaves me with 1 over u cubed integrated with respect to u. Okay, now let's change the limits. That's not hard to do. So u was 1 plus the square root of x. So all we got to do is sub in 1 for x and the 4 for x. So we'll get 1 plus the square root of 1. Square root of 1 is just 1, so it's just 2. And they got 1 plus the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2, so this would be basically 1 plus 2, which is 3. So now the limits of integration, or the new limits of integration, are going to be from 2 to 3. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to integrate this here, and we have our constant 2 on the outside. So what's the antiderivative of 1 over u cubed? Well, if you don't know what the antiderivative to that is, using a little bit of algebra to rewrite it may make it look a little easier for you. So remember, I can move that u to the third up top, thus changing the sign of the exponent. So I can just write this as u to the negative third du and deal with it that way. And now, for those of you that are familiar, obviously, with your power rule, can easily apply it now. Remember the restriction on this formula, n cannot be equal to -1 because we get division by 0, which we can't have. So that's what comes down to a lot of these integrals. A lot of times you can just use a little bit of algebra to rewrite it, and so maybe if you're not familiar with that, maybe you're a little bit familiar with that now. So that's the purpose of changing it. But in any event, if we take the antiderivative, we'll simply get negative 1 over 2 u squared, and this is just going to be evaluated from 2 to 3. Okay. So we sub into 3 first, and then we sub into 2 after that. So we sub into 3, we're going to get negative 1 over 18 because we sub into 3. We know that 3 squared is 9. We multiply that by 2, we'll get 18, and there's a minus over here. So this would be negative 1 over 18 if we sub it in. And then we subtract whatever we get when we plug the 2 in. Okay. When we plug the 2 in, we're going to get negative 1 over 8. So it'll be negative 1 over 8. And obviously, this just becomes 2 times negative 1 over 18 plus 1 over 8. So we take care of our fractions first, or our parentheses first, using PEMDAS. And so we got negative 1 over 18, and we'll add that to 1 over 8. And we get 5 over 72. So this is essentially 2 times 5 over 72. Okay. And you see what you get when you plug that in. So we get 2 times 5 divided by 72, and then I go to the math section here, click on fractions, and I get 5 over 36, which would be the answer. So 5 over 36. And that's the final answer. So the final answer here we're asked to integrate the integral from 1 to 4. It was 1 over the square root of x multiplied by 1 plus the square root of x cubed. And our answer here is 5 over 36. All right, so that is going to be your answer. So that one wasn't too challenging. We've certainly done videos on ones that were harder than that, but let me know if you got any questions about it, and we can talk about it. So I'll see you next time.